Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 18th of March. You're listening to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs program with a panel of guests where we discuss the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours. A variety of subjects we're going to be discussing, or we can discuss today. But I want to look at a couple of surveys that came out of the UK by a well-respected firm of chartered surveyors. We'll look at that in a little while. About 1 in 4 of Generation Z or Z, or however you want to pronounce it, would prefer to live, or considering living on benefits rather than working for a living. We could also look at the trend in Spain as well of young people not leaving the house. I thought we'd kick off with that today rather than go straight into, if you like, the heavy subjects. If you want to get involved with this morning's show and get your viewpoint, or anything else that you want to have a basic talk about, it could be is climate change a thing? He says as the waters have inundated Spain with yet another storm. But we can chat about those as well. Here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. Right then, let's have a look at what is making. Let's have a look at what's making the front pages this morning. The Daily Telegraph reports on comments by Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, who claims Britain will go bankrupt if ministers stick to their target of reaching net zero within 25 years. The Daily Mail has the same lead, fearing a drop in living standards if the green legal commitment is not dropped. Don't punish the needy is the Mirror's headline as the Prime Minister prepares to announce cuts to benefits today. The Guardian calls it's the government's most controversial move yet, given the opposition from some Labour MPs. Proposed welfare reforms feature in the Eye as well. And in the Times, which sums it up as checks on sick benefit claimants to increase. Daily Express leads with a warning from Reform UK's Richard Tice to Chancellor Rachel Reeves, calling her autumn budget a disaster over fears of a £40 billion tax rise next month. Britain's decaying roads have caught the Metro's eye, which quotes a report it would cost £17 billion to repair them. Financial Times leaves a story about hedge fund manager Crispin Odey. 1D Louis dates Strictly Zara in The Sun. That's referring to the love life of a One Direction star. And the Daily Star leads on the remake of Snow White using CGI dwarves rather than actors as a demonstration outside Disney Studios is planned. So let's look at those front pages. Let's call up the front pages this morning to see exactly what they're saying. Don't punish the needy is the front of the Daily Mirror with a picture of the Princess of Wales. The Guardian, D-Day for benefit cuts as Starmer faces growing tide of opposition. Meanwhile, the iPaper, disability benefit cuts. Reeves still scrambling to win over cabinet. A picture of the Princess of Wales drinking, I think that's a small Guinness. Or she's got, yes, also she's got very large hands. Check on sick benefit claimants to increase. It was St. Patrick's Day, as many of you are probably remembering this morning. The Daily Telegraph, that's definitely a half point. Badenoch net zero by 2050 is impossible. The Daily Mail, Kemi net zero by 2050 impossible. And they also got the story of the death of the last Battle of Britain pilot who died yesterday at the age of 105. That was John Paddy Hemingway, who joined the RAF in 1938. The Princess of Wales, Kate the Gwynces of Wales, very good from the Metro. 17 billion needed just to fix the roads. They should have a look at ours. Daily Express, 40 billion tax rate, disaster is killing growth. And the Guinness marketing campaign must be over the moon because she's on all the front pages. O'Day to be banned from city rolls and fined 1.8 million for a lack of integrity. That's in the Financial Times about a fund founder. And The Sun, 1D Louis dates Strictly Zara. Okay. And finally, the Daily Star, Disney protest as CGI replaces dwarves in new Snow White flick. Very, 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 very grumpy. Good morning, Michael Senka. And those, for better or worse, are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 18th of March.
TRE Talk Radio Europe.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Joined in the studio this morning by Andres Gallardo. Morning, Andres.
Good morning, Giles.
That woke you up. And the return of the nicest man in radio. Yes, indeed. Still holding on to his crown. Ron. Good morning to you, Ron.
Good morning, Giles.
So you came from Toronto to escape the snow and the weather, the awful weather.
Yes.
And here you are. And congratulations because how are the plants on your terrace doing?
Well, we tease my brother when he comes over because whenever he comes, it starts raining, and we call him Black Cloud.
Black Cloud.
Yeah.
Is that his native?
No, just when he's over here because he brings the rain.
He brings the rain.
Yeah. And he left. He was here for sunshine this year, and I have two other Canadians staying with me.
Yes.
And they brought the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do golfers do? Because when it rains, do they just watch golf, or do they go out there?
These two have been wandering around the Costa del Sol the last couple of days. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Super. Good to have you with us. If you want to get involved with, and not in the nicest possible way, when are you heading back? By the way,
March 31st.
Okay. Cool.
I find it very appropriate to go back for April Fool's Day.
Yes. What could possibly go wrong? If you want to get involved with this morning's show, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
So we're looking at the front pages of the papers. But as I said at the beginning of the show, I thought we'd have a look at some stories that are something a little bit different this morning. And this is a report from in a stark warning, the Big Four accountancy firm, which employs 26,000 people in the UK, says that many people are giving up on work. The study suggests that almost 4 in 10 are considering leaving their job and ending up on benefits. PwC warned that a generation of workers were now in danger of permanently drifting out of the jobs market and identified mental health conditions as a major drive of youth worklessness. It said economic inactivity, where people are neither in work or looking for a job, was on course to rise further, with 4.4 million workers, or 1 in 10 of the overall workforce, now on the brink of leaving the labour market. In a stark warning, the accountancy firm said many employees were wary of taking on people who had been out of work for an extended period. And concerns are also rising with a number of young people condemned to a life on benefits, as Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, prepares to unveil a major overhaul of sickness and disability payments this week in the face of a lightly backbench rebellion. They said that younger workers aged 18 to 24 are particularly at risk, with mental health a major drive. And it said that 37% had considered the last 12 months of leaving their jobs. Now, I've got the poll of polls up on the Facebook page, which is, and the comments are already coming in, which is on Talk Radio Europe Official. So if you go onto that, you can vote on the poll of polls, as I call it. And what I'm asking this morning, before the panel gets stuck in, is, with this recent report that 1 in 4 of Generation Z are considering quitting work to live on benefits in the UK, is this the most entitled generation ever? The poll of polls at the moment says yes, 92%.
Whoa.
Thank you. No, 1%. And last time I got told off because I was having don't know. So this time I've got whatever. So I've got 7% whatevers. So you came in with whoa, Andres. So do you think that the current generation, Generation Z, which I think is aged whatever 15 to 24, is the most entitled, sort of work shy? Well, you know what I'm going on here. Do you think this is?
Yeah, well, that's a difficult one. Firstly, those figures that you've quoted, 1 in 4, that means 20% of the population, active population. That figure is too high. I don't know how reliable it is. Somewhere, another source yesterday was reporting 1 in 5. Still very high. If that is true, obviously, we do have a problem. You cannot have that percentage of active population not being productive. That's not good for the country. That's not good for your neighbors. That's not good for anyone. The other thing that you're mentioning in these reports is that these people are happy to live on the payments, the welfare payments. Yeah. Is that true? Is that something that is my question is it enough to support someone's life in this day and age? I don't know. I don't think it is. The idea of these welfare payments for unemployed people is just to give them a help while they find another job. So in a period, like for instance, in Spain, you have got a limited period on what you receive as a payment. So the idea is that while you have a bad time, you've got a few months. I think the maximum in Spain is 18 months, but correct me if I'm wrong. So during that time, you're supposed to find an alternative job. And I think the payments in other countries like the UK, the payment is the amount of money that you receive for that is so little that won't allow you to have a comfortable life. So the idea is that will encourage you to go and find a job. So all these figures and all that kind of news that comes out of the blue, I don't know. I've got my doubts. I mean, it might be absolutely true, but I've got my doubts that this is actually what is happening. If it is happening, it's a real problem.
Right. Andres has got his doubts. Ron, have you got any doubts?
Well, I think we discussed my opinion a little earlier, but I think one of the... First of all, the mobile phone is one of the most addictive problems that we have in the world today. I mean, we have more people killed on our highways in North America from distracted driving than we do from impaired driving use, which numbers were ridiculous. But everybody is walking around. I was at La Cañada yesterday. It was a busy mall, and people were crashing into each other because they can't lift their heads up away from their phones. It's an addiction that nobody understands. Like, people got to quit buying their 10-year-old kids mobile phones. Teach them how to socialize and go out.
Do you think that's stopping them from working or wanting to work?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're elaborating. Okay.
Ron's a slow burner. Okay, I'm just warning you now. Then he gets wound up. It's like a Roman candle sometimes.
No, but I mean, if you start teaching kids when they're 10 years old that they could sit at the dinner table or go to restaurants with a family of 6 people and all of them sitting on their mobile phones, they're probably talking to each other, but by texting. They don't know how to socialize, and they don't know how to get off their butts and go out and look for a job because they get 16 or 17. They don't have time. They're too busy with their social media on their phones. Like, I don't know what they can do about that. Don't let a kid have a phone until he's 25. You know, that sounds a little harsh, but I mean, when you I walk into a restaurant and I see families sitting there and everybody at the tables with phones in their hand, looking at their phones and not even talking to the people that they're sitting with.
Interestingly enough, Australia, I mean, New Zealand has banned the use of mobile phones or some social media apps because they see the problems are happening. Australia's doing the same thing. They're also thinking of bringing in, as they did with cigarette advertising, some apps having a warning because of the mental. And here's the thing: the mental health issues it has. We'll come on to that in a minute, but we've got the first call of the morning, which promises to be a rather busy morning this morning, I think. Morning, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Giles. It's Alf.
Morning, Alf.
I thought I'd get in early. I'm off later, as you know, to see a doctor.
Good luck with that.
It's nothing emergency, just a diabetes check. Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Andreas.
Good morning.
And I got your name right this time, Ron. So part of the problem, I'll deal with it from where I came from, what I understood, what I had to deal with. Part of the problem, it's not that people don't want to work. I mean, there is an element. There's always been an element of people who don't want to work. For example, I was 55 and I stopped work. The difference is I never went on to benefits. I just stopped work. And eventually moved to Spain a couple of years later. So it's not everybody who's a scrounger, and that's what the perception is. If you're not at work and you can't work and you don't want to work, then you're a scrounger. The second thing, and I had to deal with a significant amount of this, when you're dealing with low-paid workers, and I don't mean that disrespectful to the companies, because the companies will do whatever they do to make a profit for the shareholders, for the pension schemes, and for everybody else who needs to make money out of business. But when you go to work and something happens, I dealt with a guy, for example, and he was consistently late to work. Eventually he got, they were going to sack him. I met him to talk to him about not getting the sack, about how we could change it around and about what I could do, and et cetera, et cetera. And I blow my own trumpet. I was a good union official. The company would talk to me, they would listen to me, they would do things in order to help people, because I'm a believer in people going to work will have a better lifestyle and a better life by going to work than sitting on a couch at home, doing nothing, watching the television or playing, gambling on the screen or whatever they do. So mine was all about getting people to work. And I met this guy and he said, please don't get me my job back. Now, I knew I could get this guy his job back because I'd already talked to the company. We're not talking about a Tuck Me Ain't Me company. I'm talking about Tesco's, the biggest employer in the UK at the time. And the guy says to me, please don't give me my job back. Why is that? And this is where it's about the system. And the system is the benefits system. He, going to work, and it doesn't sound a lot now, this would have been, 20 years ago, he would have lost £5 benefit by returning to work or going into work. You cannot have a system, seriously, where you are better off on benefits than you are by going to work. Why, he says, it's quite simple. Why should I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock or 6:30, travel, pay for my own travel to get to this, as it was, a dry food warehouse, do an 8-hour day, travel home, do whatever I've done, and at the end of the week I'm £5 worse off. That's what's wrong with some of the system. That's why the benefit system needs to change. But this is about forcing companies, why everybody complains when the government says we're going to increase the minimum wage. If you pay people enough, it stops the argument that says, why should I go to work because I'm worse off? Nobody going to work should be worse off than not going to work. Now, I don't know how I do know how you square that circle, and that's you keep increasing the amount of money that employers have to pay to people. Forget all these nil hours contracts and part-time working. That's nonsense. Part-time working. It's not for the benefit of the people, it's for the benefit of the organisation. Stop agency working, bringing people in from Poland to pick stores because they can. It's not because they do it cheaper, but because they're quicker and better, because all they want to do is earn money and go back to Poland and buy a house.
And they can't do that. It's difficult for them now because of Brexit, isn't it, of course?
Well, Brexit, to be honest, if it was as bad as that, Giles, you wouldn't have all these companies still employing overseas workers, however they manage to do it, however they get around the system, they do it. I can say the biggest cleaning company in the UK employed more illegal workers than any other company. Now, I can say, I was at Basildon Hospital, and the guys were telling me, strange stories. I used to cover the mortuary technicians, as they're called. And they said to me, I went there one day, and they said, oh, you should have been here last night, Alf. He said, you'd have seen thousands of them running across the fields. Thousands of who? What, the patients? No. All the cleaning staff who were in there, I won't name the cleaning company,
right.
But all the cleaning staff were there. The local or the authorities sent in the inspectors. As soon as these people see inspectors coming, and they are about Home Office and, illegal immigration and all that, these people just over the fence and across the fields to escape from being caught. And you go, how can a British company, a big British company that complains about, we can't get enough workers from Europe because of Brexit and all that rubbish, how can they have all these people working illegally? And it's time that Britain and British people understood you have to put the pressure, and I know I'm coming at it from a union perspective, but you have to put the pressure on the employers. One, to stop employing people illegally, and two, to make their pay, awardable, as we called it.
Yeah.
You get awarded for going to work, and it's what Andreas was sort of alluding to. People going to work need to aspire to something. You don't go to work to give somebody else all your money. You go to work to make your life better. You make it more comfortable, or you've got a car, or in some cases you've got a washing machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are the things that people aspire to, and all of the time you're taking that aspiration away. Now, I understand where the Labour government are going. It comes across wrong because immediately it affects people who you really society needs to look after. And they're the ones, it always seems that they're the ones that get hit the hardest, the first.
Yeah, indeed. Alf, as always, thanks for your call in there. The numbers, if you want to get involved with today's Viewpoint.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And it's to the WhatsApps we go first off. Morning, Cookie. Morning, Giles. Morning, Andreas. Morning, the other gentleman on the panel. That's you, Ron, by the way, just saying it. You're the other gentleman the other gentleman on the panel. It's a lovely Cookie. The Cookie's pulling their punches this morning. They're just lazy and they want handouts. They're too busy on TikTok trying to be influencers. Meanwhile, with all due respect, Alf, this is Jay, that was 20 years ago. A large proportion of people on benefits are working for peanuts on 0 hours contracts and using food banks. Focus on taxing the billionaires and not blaming the poor and disabled. Meanwhile, I wouldn't call the PwC well respected. I don't know how reliable it is. Laugh out loud. The Labour Party may be suffering agonies over plans to trim the welfare budget by £5 billion. But in the context of the recent and forecasted rise in the benefits bill, it barely scratches the surface. As I've said before, there is nothing social about social media. I'm pretty sure that Tesco has never overtaken the NHS as the largest employer in the UK. People no longer come from Poland to work in the UK. They come from sub-Saharan Africas. But I guess that's what some Brexiteers wanted. Replace white Poles with black Angolans. Genius. And people aspire for washing machines. Is that a union broadcast from the 1970s? To the poll of polls, and some comments on this one as well. Adam in Brighton, good morning. When your recent report comes from the Daily Mail, because it was picked up by the Daily Mail, this PwC thing, it's time to call it's time to give up, basically. Meanwhile, Lindsay says when rent is 2/3 of salary, it's a fiscally responsible option. Just looking at some other comments coming in on this, looking at some comments on some of the groups. Look, you can check out the poll of polls on on Talk Radio Europe Official. And this one says, was talking about the polar poles. I'll come back to that later because I've just been overtaken by a bunch of adverts for furniture, which is quite interesting. 952 784000 is the phone number. Robert Glass says, which report is this? I expect an exaggeration at best. The polar polls is, with the recent reports that 1 in 4 Gen Z are considering quitting work to live on benefits in the UK. Is this the most entitled generation ever? 92% say yes, it is. 1% say no, and 7% say whatever. So, panel, the interesting thing here, I was just thinking about this because the people are saying, we've got mental health issues. 2.8 million in this report. Let me just get this. 2.8 million in the UK are economically inactive because they say they're too sick for work. And that 4,000 people were 40% between the ages of 18 and 24 were 40% more likely to cite concerns of mental health as opposed to older respondents. Now, the mental health thing, right? And I'm going to put my toe in some very boiling water here. Okay, so here we go. The mental health aspect with people saying, well, we've got this, we've got that. Conditions that perhaps when we all first came onto the job market didn't exist. It wasn't an option. You couldn't have this because nobody sort of knew about it. And people would say, well, that's probably a good thing. And they could say, well, I'm too stressed and the information's too much, from coming in from my phone just before we start. But surely mental health and work, if you are working, and we're going to sound like a bunch of dinosaurs, but if you are working, if you're getting up in the morning and doing a job, that, whatever job it is, doesn't matter, that has something to do for your mental health and your sense of worth, which you probably won't get if you are, if you are unable to work. You won't have that sense of fulfillment. Andres?
Yes, you're right. Going to work is good for your mental health. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Problem is that if we're talking mental health, someone has to sign you off, and that is a doctor. So here is where the responsibility of each individual doctor has to take preference. Right. So I'll give you an example. So I don't like giving particular examples because it could be a one-off. But you can go to a doctor and say, look, you're very depressed because you don't get on with your boss. And you don't want to go to work because that causes you depression because your boss is bullying you and this and that and the other. Now, this person hasn't got a health problem, he's got a labor problem. However, the doctor might not want to get involved and signs them off with mental health problem. Is that right? I don't think it is, because unless you have a real mental health problem, you shouldn't be signed off. And you should say, look, you haven't got a health problem as such, the doctor should say. Go to your work and sort out your problems with your boss, but I cannot intervene in something that is nothing to do with health.
But this goes back to Ron's original point of people being on their phones all the time, because people are forgetting how to have we know that people, it's the easier option is to send a WhatsApp or a text message rather than make a phone call, or even, heaven forfend, have a face-to-face meeting with somebody and actually make eye contact with them, as Ron is doing quite strenuously with you right now.
Well, exactly. Like when our kids are growing up now, they're not taught a work ethic. Or
social skills, or the social skill,
Exactly, or a work ethic. When you've got a job, you go to work. Like when I first joined the workforce, I started when I was a kid, 12 years old with a paper route, but all through. When I was 18 years old, though, I joined the Canadian Armed Forces, and that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
You didn't have a safe space.
They taught us a work ethic. I mean, hands fall in is 8 o'clock in the morning. If you get there at 8 o'clock, you're 15 minutes late, and there's no way you phone in sick. Especially if you're in the middle of the ocean. And I was in the Navy, and hands fall in is 8 o'clock. You get down there for 1:45. If you get there at 8:05, you're not 5 minutes late. there's 140 people waiting for you to arrive. So you're, what is it, 700 minutes that you're late?
Well, there is another thing. I don't know if this is true or not. Alf mentioned that you may be better off receiving benefit payments than going to work. That fundamentally, that concept is wrong. No one should be getting more money from not going to work and getting paid from the welfare state, which is taxpayers' money. Let's not forget that. That money doesn't come from a tree. It comes from taxpayers' money. You shouldn't be better off on a welfare payment than going to work. And if that is true, which I don't know, but Alf mentioned that was a particular case that he encountered, that is true. That is where the problem is. And each country should look at the benefit system, making sure that the benefit system is there to encourage people to go to work. Whether it's set on a period of time or the amount of money is just enough to survive but encourages you to go to work so you are productive and earning enough to have a more comfortable life, or whatever it is. It should be an incentive to go to work, not something you say, "Ooh, this is nice, I'm staying home, I don't need to wake up in the morning to go to work." And that's what's fundamentally wrong, is that those payments perhaps are disencouraging people as opposed to do their job, which is to encourage them.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the system over here, but in Canada, the social services, you make more money working than you do on social services. You're not getting a lot of money when you're on social services, which is welfare.
And that it should be.
That's the way it should be. Of course it is, yes.
But I got something coming saying, I wouldn't say serving hamburgers benefits mental health. Well, you kind of, and here we go, you kind of say that, but I mean...
Yeah, but that comment, I'm sorry, but that comment is wrong, because going into burgers, which is something that someone has to do, it's not only the action of serving a burger, it's getting there, it's putting your uniform on, it's having colleagues that you interact with that, and after work you go and have a drink with them maybe, or maybe you meet a girl in your job, and then it becomes your girlfriend. Whatever it is, you are in a social environment doing something. So to say serving burgers is boring, yeah, of course it is boring, but it's not only the action of serving burgers, it's the interaction with your colleagues and just being, But
herein lies the rub, you see, because what we have at the moment is a generation that doesn't do the crime. I'm using really broad strokes here, but we live in a generation now, because of the advent of smartphones, that people want instant gratification. They want the hit, the like. They want the dopamine hit of going onto their social media and seeing that people have liked their reel, hence the influencers. And so therefore they see people who have rented Lamborghinis for the day and they think, okay, I'm going to walk into this job and I'm going to make $1 million in 2 weeks. And if I haven't made it, then I don't want to do that job. And yet you have to start somewhere and keep at it. I mean, your career, you don't walk in and say, if I'm not admiral of the fleet by Wednesday, I've had enough.
And another thing that you see far too much of is people at work on their phones when they're supposed to be. Like, I've gone into restaurants waiting for a waiter or a waitress, and you look over and they're standing off somewhere on their phones rather than serving the tables that they're at. And it just, I don't know, I had my own business for 35 years.
Yeah.
And a few years back, I used to go to the job every 3 or 4 hours just to check, make sure everything was going okay. And 2 of the guys were missing. One of them's in the cab of the truck talking on his cell phone, and somebody else is down in the basement of the house that we're moving on their phones. And the customer's paying me $160 an hour to move them. And there's nobody there doing the work that they're supposed to. I used to get so upset that finally I forbid phones to be even taken in the truck. You weren't allowed to take them on the job.
Right, the address, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the thing you said about, they want to be influencers. Look, the reality is that, yeah, you might have a few kids that they want to be influencers and they do that and they get disappointed when they're not successful or whatever. But the kids want to be footballers, and they go to, sort of training and try to become, but it's only a very small number of people who make it to the Premiership or the La Liga or to Real Madrid or, it's only about a handful. So, but every kid in the country wants to be that. That doesn't mean that they fail at being footballers and don't do anything else. That means that they have to continue their studies, they have to find jobs. And there is examples of kids out there, they are super clever. I mean, my nephews and nieces, I'm sorry to say I don't want to blow their trumpet, but they are super clever, they're highly qualified, they are accessing really good jobs and everything. But that's down to effort, is down to perseverance, and all of that. And that is what we have to teach our kids, that you can be successful doing that, and it's very it's big rewards awaiting for you if you take that route. Yes, of course there'll be a small number of kids that they and they grab the headline saying, oh, the kids want to be influencers. Well, that's not true. There's a bunch of kids, they do it, and as soon as they fail, they realize they're going to have to do something about it. And then going back to the figures that are being quoted by Price Waterhouse, maybe they're right, but I just can't see it. You cannot support that level of inactivity and not producing. No country can support that, and if that is the case, that is the biggest problem that we'll face in the years to come.
The other thing the survey says is that this is specifically the UK, is that there are less people working now in the UK than there were before the pandemic hit, which is 5 years ago. So there hasn't been people going back to work, because it's given them people have been used to working from home or whatever, and there's been a drop off in people actually returning to the jobs market, which was an interesting one as well. And it maybe it says something about the way that we look at work, because when we started in the employment industry, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, etc., it was kind of a job for life. I mean, I went into journalism, and I thought I was going to take a career path that would be via the national newspapers, and then that all changed completely. When you went into the Navy, there was a career path, but you were going to stick at a job for a long time. You thought, okay, a minimum of 5 years, for example. But now it seems that it's very much that because of words that politicians pick up on, which are sexy, like the gig economy and no hours contracts, people think that's sexy and whatever, without in light industry and people able to flexi move. It all sounds very, very sort of sexy in 21st century, but nobody's got an idea what it means, except that, the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get considerably poorer. Maybe that's had an influence on that. And also that people don't like to move anymore, because, I will remember Norman Tebbit saying, infamously, when my father wanted to look for work, he got on, and there wasn't a job, he got on his bike and he went to find it. And Spain's got, especially down here, but also, Asturias got a tradition of immigrante, of people going to Germany and Belgium to find work, and perhaps today's society they don't want to leave their homes because they think they can do it all online. Panel?
Well, I think look at how many Spanish young people are working abroad now. The number is huge. People who go and find, I was reading an article yesterday, this girl who didn't finish university, she took a break, went to Switzerland to work as a waitress, earning 4,000 Swiss francs a month, really happy, getting an experience there, learning a language, she's learning German and everything, and she's being interviewed with the idea that in a year or 2 or 3 years she'll come back, finish her studies, have a little bit of money behind her. There is... people do move and go places to find work, and that motivation is there. But what we hear is the report of people who don't want to work. But I don't think it's a majority, and I don't think, again, that those numbers reflect the reality out there.
Just a few more things coming in before we go to because I've got to put an ad break in before we go to the news. I couldn't wait to start a full-time... This is in the WhatsApp. I couldn't wait to start a full-time job. Went to a few interviews, The Economist, and got a job in employee relations for an American oil company based on the Marylebone Road. I loved earning my own money, and the social and professional interactions have built me and helped my career. Generation Z needs to learn how to handle rejections. This one coming in... on studio@tre.radio. Tesco were the biggest private sector employer in the UK, and the NHS is not counted as one workforce, and similarly local authorities. The civil servants are big, but are counted as individual departments. People can nitpick about who are the biggest, but the issue is just the same. Low pay, benefit damage, and no aspirational employment are deterrents to work. Have people also forgotten that Tory is changing the lost days accounting when you could have Friday and Monday off sick and it was only 2 days? Now Fridays and Mondays are attached to weekends. They also encourage companies to reduce the number of sick days before beginning the disciplinary course. Now, this is another one just come in. Hi there. I now believe in the welfare state, but hi guys. Now I believe in the welfare state, but I knew families in the UK who were generationally unemployed. So that would be, passed down, grandfathers wouldn't work, fathers wouldn't work, and now the kids.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard that before, and I just wonder how they manage to do it with the benefit payments. Maybe they work cash in hand elsewhere to make it, because as I understand, the payments are not enough to have a comfortable life. So if it's not going to sustain a comfortable life, what's stopping you from going out there and finding a job?
952784000. Get a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
This is
TRE Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Yeah, always live at the Viewpoint. Giles Brown on the hot seat today. Joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and Ron Yates, also known as the nicest man in radio. If you want to get involved with today's show, these are the numbers.
to contact TRE. Please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And it's back to the poll of polls we go, as we're asking after this recent survey from PwC that says that Generation 1 in 4 Generation Z are considering quitting work to live on benefits in the UK. Is this the most entitled generation ever? 86% say yes, it is. 1% say no. 13% say whatever. So those are the results in the poll of polls thus far. Get onto Talk Radio Official and you can spread the love and have your viewpoint known. Now then, okay, we're now arguing about Tesco, which I'm not going to get into. Right, so there's one topic. Here's a good morning, Paul. Okay, there is one topic that seems to be overlooked, panel. During COVID-19 lockdowns, teenagers had their social lives put on hold. They couldn't see their friends, school lessons cancelled, and moved online. 3 years is a long time for teenagers not to develop social interaction skills. They've retreated online and lived on their phones or devices for an extended period of time. Even young children return to primary school with reduced language skills and toilet training. Thanks for bringing the toilet training. That's good to know. This is a generational problem that needs sorting. So, after this enforced period of time on their phones, I'm not going to ask you about your toilet training, Andres, to fear not. But do you think do you think that it's had this effect, or just another example? People saying, "Oh well, you don't understand. We went through COVID, and therefore we can't, we can't do that." I'm not going to mention the war, but I'm going to mention the war. But anyway, off we go.
Well, every generation goes through traumatic events and things that happened. We all seem to recover from that. I don't know what kind of effect the lockdowns around the world would have had on teenage kids. The truth is that I don't know, but it wasn't that long in terms of the time the lockdowns. We're talking months. There was restrictions on mobility and so on, but to use that as an excuse, look, I am the way I am because I was locked down for 3 months, I think it's a poor excuse, to be honest. We all have to adapt to different circumstances in different times of our lives. That was something that happened to us all, COVID, and we had to adapt to that, and we came out and we are back on the road again. So that goes for older people, for teenagers and children. To use it as an excuse, it doesn't wash, because it was the same for everybody, and that's one of the few things that happen in this society where it's the same for everybody.
Yeah, I've just been told that everyone went through COVID, not everybody went through, say, World War II. Also, NHS England is counted as one employer. Statistically, Tesco only have 330,000 employees. I wasn't arguing, Giles. I was correcting the narrative. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. Just to let you know, this program is brought to you in association with St. James Global Private Clients, who are expanding into Spain. For expert financial advice for Spanish tax residents and to maximise your retirement income, contact St. James Global Private Clients on info@stjamesglobal.com. St. James Global, protecting your assets and growing your wealth.
To contact TRE, please call 952-78-4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Tongue-in-cheek, I went through the Thatcher years and survived. Thank you very much from that. Not too shabby at all. Why isn't Lech Walesa on the Poll of Polls survey? Yes, very good indeed. Lech Walesa, leader of Solidarity, so therefore a poll of polls would therefore be you with me so far? Yeah, okay, fine, just checking on that. Into the just to let you know what's happening on following me today on TRE Talk Radio Up, your voice of Spain, in Spain even. Following me as always will be Stephen Ritson, giving us an update on what's happening in the world. Selena returns today between 2 and 4 with the Lifestyle Show. She'll be speaking to Jennifer Obicadike, the author, who's written the authorized biography of the quintessential 80s pop band, the Bangles.
Wow.
Yes, who scored? I never knew. Yes, listen.
The Bangles.
Eternal Flame, Walk Like an Egyptian, Manic Monday.
Yeah, okay. Like an Egyptian.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, should we be talking about them?
Sorry,
don't get too excited, Andres. It's not a topic for Viewpoint. Also, it could be, I suppose. Also, she's talking to Amberly Lago. A joy through the journey. Shift your mindset, embrace the present moment, and cultivate resilience through life's ups and downs. That's on Selena's show. Following Selena, Hannah is back, of course, from her travels, from her passage through India. She'll be talking to Dejina Dagi Lakis. The Wall Falls, A Woman Rises, a memoir about how an American US tech entrepreneur broke the glass ceiling and helped modernize Latvia. At 5:10, Bonato Seni and Sarah Luz Akvil, the neurodivergent lovers club, and how neurodivergent women lust, like, and love. Don't say we're not a broad church here. And at 25:06, Jackie Lappin from the Historic Traveller joins us. Before Howard is back at 6 o'clock to restore some sense of order with Spain today before the repeat of today's show. That's all happening on TRE Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain.
To contact TRE, please call 952-78-4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Just a quick one. I agree with the person who mentioned the generational issue regarding not working. I was a health visitor working with vulnerable families in an era of deprivation. In many of the families, parents and grandparents had never worked, and the families often had the attitude of, well, my mum and dad never worked, I'm okay. Often they and their families weren't okay, but I think it's difficult for those of us with aspirations for a better life to imagine that there are people out there who don't have similar aspirations. Interesting. Right then, coming up to the end of the first half of this morning's Viewpoint, going to go to the national and then the international news. The international news from London, of course, and the national news from Bob, who I presume is staying warm and dry up on the Costa Blanca. And then we're back for the second half of today's Viewpoint. 952-78-4000, the phone number, studio@tre.radio is the email if you want to get some viewpoints across. But now we're going to the news. See you after the news.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Always live, always lively. Welcome back to the second half of this morning's Viewpoint with you for the next 52 minutes or so. What could possibly go wrong? I'm joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and Ron Yates. Looking at some of the other stories that have been crossing my radar. If there's something you want to talk about today as well, please feel free to get involved with today's show. We've had an awful lot lately about the European, because I think we've covered now. The poll of polls, so is still saying, if you want to get involved, is still saying Generation Z, 1 in 4 considering quitting to live on benefits. The poll of polls, if you want to get involved, says 82% of those polling believes that Generation Z is the most entitled generation ever. 1% say no, and 17% say whatever. So, looking at the headlines, and looking at some more stories that have been crossing the news radar. Then, an awful lot about growing European unity in the face of America's recent comments on NATO and Kyiv, etc. Keir Starmer hosted a virtual meeting of world leaders, the European Council and NATO, except the US, on Saturday to discuss the peacekeeping mission to Ukraine. This was the coalition of the willing, quote unquote, but one leader doesn't appear to be so willing because Giorgia Meloni, Italy's far-right Prime Minister, seemed poised to snub the meeting and distance herself from the initiative. She attended it only after days of hesitation, with notable reservations. After the call, she remained firm that Italy would not be deploying troops as part of the scheme. Defence ministers and military bosses will hold an operational meeting in London on Thursday, but Italy will attend, but only as an observer. I quite like this, probably, looking over the shoulders. Meloni has carefully positioned herself as the closest mainstream European leader to Trump, as a potential bridge between the White House and Europe. So there you go. When the Italians are getting involved as a bridge between Europe and America, it's becoming an interesting time to be alive. Meanwhile, in other news, we've got this call today between but Donald Trump plans to speak to Vladimir Putin about the peace process in Ukraine. Today, a lot's been done over the weekend, showing the two plan to discuss territorial issues and energy plants, as well as the sharing of certain assets. Hopefully, that at least somewhat aligns with the EU's agenda, with foreign ministers meeting in Brussels yesterday to discuss what else they could do to ramp up pressure on Putin. So, interesting. I mean, let's talk about one of the sort of the spin-offs from after this 60 days of President Trump in power is that he seems to have revamped, if you like, the centre parties in Europe in a way that perhaps wasn't happening before. You had populist parties in Europe who were trying to make gains in the whole thing. And now it seems that you have this quote coalition of the willing. Everybody's talking about, Europe being united again. Pedro Sanchez has, of course, been talking about military budgets, and he has, if you like, made liberal politicians or centrist politicians electable again, especially, Ron, in Canada, with what we've seen with the governor of Ontario and Trudeau, and of course we've got Mark Carney taking over.
Yes.
So what's your take on it? What's your spin on it as the man from Toronto?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment on Trump, and like, I don't like the man, and I've made that very obvious in my previous appearances on here. But they had, I forget how many tornadoes through the United States this weekend. There was 42 people killed by tornadoes and fires this weekend. Donald Trump was on the Trump Golf and Country Club playing golf in the club championship. In his Instagram post, he went on and on and on about how he won it again for the third time. No comment at all about the state of emergency all over his country.
Yeah, but we've seen this before with he's got to be front and centre of the news at all times, and one of the things that he seems to have no understanding about is empathy, because we saw this with the crash at Washington when he was saying that was his first thing, the airliner crash in Washington. Everybody, it hit the Black Hawk helicopter. Everybody lost on board both plane. I think it was on both. Everybody was lost, and he turned that from being sort of a solemn occasion into pushing the agenda of diversity in air traffic control. So, he's always going to make that sort of that front page. He's always going to make himself front and centre of everything that happens, and that's why, you see. And it's at the weekend.
Well, they had a video of him on Instagram or whatever it was of playing golf.
But some might say, well, he's working hard. He's training the swamp. He deserves a day off to okay. 952784000. Andres.
Yeah. Now the problem is when you're the president of the United States, or the president of any country for that matter, you don't have a day off because things happen every day. So you have to, when you sign up for the job, you need to know that it's not Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. It's just like 24/7, and you should know that. And what you said there is very, very right. It's a man who doesn't show any empathy for anyone. Taking you back to Europe, after the comments you made there, it is interesting to see the position of Meloni, the president of Prime Minister of Italy, which was, when she won the election, was branded the new Mussolini, and everyone was scared of her. At the time, I said, just wait and see, because she's going to have to, some of the things she says she's going to do, she's not going to be able to, because there are, a number of elements that will stop her from doing some of the things. She has now become a conservative leader of the country. She has given political stability to Italy, which that in itself is almost impossible. And she's become a strong voice in the European Union. And now, starting with Starmer, who went to see her and thought it was a great idea to ship immigrants to out of the country somewhere else, and he bought that idea and wanted to follow. Now von der Leyen is now saying that they are looking at the same kind of schemes. So this idea we had that Mussolini was back in Italy to the reality of today is very, very different. And in terms of what we have with the military development of a force in Europe is something that is worth discussing. But I believe you have got...
Wait till the lines we go. Morning, caller. Thank you for priming me there. Morning, caller. We're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Giles. Good morning, panel. It's John in Benavista. Hi.
Sounds a bit windy, John, where you are.
I'm cleaning a swimming pool. It's a little bit breezy. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's multitasking.
Right.
Go on.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Right, okay. I'd just like to say, okay, Trump was playing golf. Okay. Let's look back at the Biden years, shall we? I mean, how many days did he actually put in as president of the United States? He had more holidays than probably any other president in history. And when he was at the helm, it's probably better he was on holiday, shall we say. But there's one point I'd like to make. Well, actually, you haven't brought it up this morning, but something I've been hearing about You know that Biden made all those mass pardons in the final hours of his existence. It's come to light that these pardons were made with an auto pen, as they call it.
Right.
Quite often, presidents have that system where an auto pen is used for minor signings, shall we say. But this, as we know, was not a minor signing. This is the mass pardoning of potential criminals. And now this has come to light. Donald Trump is cancelling these pardons because they were basically made illegally.
Yeah, this is yeah. I mean, this is okay. So this is something that's been picked up because Trump's been saying he's physically not signing the pardons that he made for people that he thought might be pursued by the.
Apparently, he wasn't even aware of them. And let's be honest, if you're talking about Biden, that's very likely, isn't it?
Right. So according to your case, so the think tank that wrote Project 25, this is the oversight project, claims that Biden used an alternated signature. Okay, so yeah, I'm just picking up on this now from a couple of sites. Donald Trump is using the allegations of an auto pen signature to attempt to void the pardons offered by Biden to political opponents of Trump and MAGA. Even if Biden does use an auto pen, the Justice Department stated the president need not physically perform the physical act of affixing his signature to a bill he approves and decides to sign it in order for the bill to become law. Okay? This is it. So, AutoPen is an automated signature devices that do not require the signer to be physically signing a document to which the name is affixed have been around since Thomas Jefferson's time. Something that is signed via AutoPen is not any legally less binding than something that is signed physically. So that's what's coming up from the Justice Department of the States.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, the more interesting factor is that Biden probably wasn't even aware of these pardons. And as we know, Biden to be Biden, neither here nor there. He probably was, he wasn't in a fit state to do anything like that, was he?
I mean, he wasn't drooling into his cornflakes in the morning, Jonathan. But I kind of get where you're coming from.
Not quite. Yeah. So how do you know that, Giles?
All right.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your call in. And as always, enjoy it and take care cleaning the pools. 952-78-4000. Good morning. Got some comments coming in. Okay, so Donald Trump's been in office for 57 days and has played golf on 16 of those days, just so you know, i.e. 28% of the time. Did Joe Biden really spend... No, he didn't spend 40% of his time on a vacation. 952-78-4000. Now, we were talking about you were saying the new Mussolini. I was talking about... Yeah, go on.
I was just saying that it's interesting, the debate now in the European Union of creating their own armed forces and on military response to protect what is the European Union, seeing that NATO perhaps is not going to be in a position to do it. That is a subject that I keep going round and round. I understand that NATO is not it's not going to do what it was supposed to do because the threat of the USSR is not there anymore. And it was created simply for, sort of protecting the expansion of the communist region and the Warsaw Pact and everything else. That once that disappeared, NATO lost a little bit of raison d'être.
Having said that, I mean, NATO was that article, this famous Article 5, attack against one, it's attack against all. That came into force. The only people was, of course, after 9/11 where that was employed. So that's the huge tongue-in-cheek irony. This is the fact that it's the only time it's recently employed has been when the United States came under attack.
Yeah, but if we're not going to have NATO as a support and security entity, rightly the European Union are looking at finding a kind of sort of form of defence, if you like. my question, and I mentioned that now last week when I phoned in, is that there is a tremendous economic effort to produce a military might that will defend us from whatever threat comes into the European Union. I don't see it. Let's not forget that whatever money is spent on this issue is taxpayers' money. If it's not taxpayers' money, it's borrowed money the taxpayer will eventually have to pay.
Or alternatively, you use the Russian assets that have been frozen since the invasion of Ukraine. I mean,
But that's not going to be enough. We haven't frozen that much. We're talking hundreds and thousands of, millions.
Yes.
And that's not going to be enough with, the few yachts and villas that have been taken from Russian nationals. So we are talking a massive investment that we don't know how much money is enough to become a deterrent to everyone, whether it's Russia or China or whoever. What's the amount that we need to invest? Because we might investing hundreds of thousands of whatever figure is being quoted and find at the end of it is not enough.
Fine. Well, in which case in which case you preempt it, and then you unfreeze the assets of the Russians, who all the Europeans are holding, and you pump that money into the systems that the Ukraine needs to keep Russia and help them continue their struggle against the Russians.
But you're talking of one particular conflict, which is the conflict in Ukraine.
That's front and center.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of it is to make it bigger and just become a permanent deterrent to anyone who threatens the European Union. Let's not forget that is an ongoing investment that every year you will have to update and upgrade, and it's money after money after money that will have to be invested in this. The question is, can we afford it? And secondly, who's going to direct all of this? A military force has to have a direction. And has to be, you cannot have 27 heads of state deciding whether we have, troops here, troops there. No, I don't like them there, move them everywhere else. We have to all agree, and to know where we're going. It's an impossible task.
Well, yes, but you see, the key is coalition of the willing, i.e., we need to do something about this. First step, get everybody on board. Get Canada involved. Get the Inuits involved in Greenland as well, and go, right. We're not, in the immortal words of Twisted Sister, we ain't going to take it, which was used obviously as a song from Trump. But saying, okay, listen, this is what we're going to do. We are going to stand as a European force, and we are going to be together on this, and we all agree on these principles. Okay, and this is life, liberty, and the whole thing, and then take it from there, because you can't create anything over one night.
This is what we had with NATO. And what happened with NATO is when you don't have one single enemy to defend from, and you have different fronts, open fronts, that agreement starts to crackle. Because...
But we had we got Russia invading Ukraine. If the States stay in NATO, then we will have...
Then we can have China. Then we can have... Maybe even the United States turn against us, which is not, out of the cards. So we have a situation where we don't have we have Putin as a one single enemy, but in the future we could have multiple enemies. And we all have to agree to be all on the same page to find these potential enemies. And that's what I see very, very difficult, because the needs of Poland and the needs of Romania, the needs of Portugal may be different, and they may not want to deploy forces here, may not want to deploy or spend more money on this or that. It's just too complicated. It's complicated enough to have open borders to trade freely without tariffs within the European Union, that if we add the problem of having a military force that has to be coordinated and has to be funded, I just find it very, very difficult. And if we manage to do it, and we manage to do it in an affordable way, I'll be delighted. But today, from where I'm sitting, I can't see it.
Hello, Ron.
Continue on, please.
Continue on. Okay, divide and rule. The thing is, an aggressor or a predator will look for a chink in your armour, okay, for Europe. And so you may say, oh, yeah, but what we're going to do, and I'm not sure who we're doing it again. And whilst everybody's dithering around about this, you've lost Moldova. You've got Romania's gone. The Baltic's gone. That's the way it operates. However, if you say, okay, we will not have 27. There will not be 27 generals for each thing of this part. But you say, listen, we are a united force. If the Americans decide, or the American president and the current administration decides to pull out of NATO, or decides that they're not going to get involved with this because their policies are America first, and not understanding this will absolutely damage their standing in the world because Trump only sees things in spheres of influence. Therefore, he sees Russia as a sphere of influence, Putin, and also China as a sphere of influence. He wants to be a sphere of influence in the quote unquote Western world. But if you do an isolationist policy, then we just go, okay, fine, you get on with that. We'll talk to Canada, Mexico, South America, our European allies, and everybody else. And therefore, the States becomes this inward-looking thing, which we've seen before FDR took America looking outwards in the 30s. Meanwhile, to the WhatsApps we go, which is besides. This is back to the auto pen. A 25 memo from the Department of Justice during the Bush administration. External stated the president doesn't have to physically sign a bill for it to become law. You're giving me that look, Ron. The president may sign a bill within the meeting of Article 1, Section 7, I know it well, by directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by auto pen. Right, €270 billion euros will help, and NATO is indirectly taxpayer funded. So whether it's an EU army or NATO or some other solution, it's still the same source of wealth. And I'd rather have an EU force than individual armies, this listener says. It would be a similar setup to the EU Commission. Crackle, how about the snap and pop? Right. Meanwhile, Europe and its allies need to buy European. Several companies are looking at the F-35. Okay. And just looking at some more bits and pieces coming in via the various sources that we have here. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. Ron, I mean, I was going to go back before Jez and I got involved. Because the phones are going off. Excuse me. My light's not flashing. Because it's on black. Now it is. He says, burning his retinas out. All right. Morning, caller. Sorry for that. My phone wasn't on. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Felix here.
Morning, Felix.
Good morning. So now, Giles, you're advocating clearly for war between Europe and Russia.
No, I'm not advocating a war, but okay, sorry, off you go. I'll let you do your point, Felix, come on.
That's what you said. You said that 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, I didn't say a war between Russia.
You're calling for a war against Russia. I'm not calling for a war. I'm not calling for a war. I'm calling for a strong defence and an alliance, because predators like to divide and rule. Let me break that divide and rule.
Yeah.
Let me break that down. What Starmer is calling for, along with Macron, is to establish a force in Europe which will take the side of Ukraine against Russia, what will this take this another step forward? What will this involve? It will involve recruitment in Britain into an army which is at the moment very depleted. Same in France and any other country, but Italy you've already established as opted out, so it's a divided Europe. And what will this mean? It will mean that the British Army will start recruitment among youth, the purpose being to fight Russia in Ukraine. And the clear declaration of Starmer is to enter troops on the ground into Ukraine. Russia, however, has said that it will not accept in any shape or form any NATO troops in Ukraine under any condition, and that is absolutely established by the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
Now, consider something else. Russia is one of the two, well, along with America, they are the two main nuclear forces in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Russia has got submarines, a fleet of submarines, something like 50, and about half of those are highly stealth submarines, and they can take out all the cities in America inside of a few minutes. Now think of that. What's at stake here?
Why would Russia take out all cities in America then? If this is a
because they're being threatened
by whom?
By the world declaring war on them.
Well, they shouldn't invade Ukraine then, should they, Felix?
You can go through a number of steps where that is possible, where the world has ganged up on Putin and on Russia out of sheer hatred of Russia, and just accept that fact that Russia has got the power to take out all the cities in America. And
Felix, they couldn't take Ukraine in 48 hours. They couldn't take Kyiv in 48 hours. How have they got the pay to take out the thing? Do you see what I'm saying here, my friend?
No. I think that's particularly silly. Because
why? We all saw the convoy of trucks sitting outside Kyiv.
Just listen to me. Just listen a second. The war in Ukraine is one thing. It's a war which is fought on land without nuclear weapons. If this comes into a question of nuclear weapons, trust me, the Russian submarine fleet is highly stealth. It can rest along all the borders of.
You are familiar with the Kursk, aren't you?
You keep interrupting. Let me finish.
Because you're talking absolutely. I mean, honestly, you're going back. There are two things. One, you said that I'm advocating war. No, I'm not. I'm advocating a coalition of the willing. I never said they're going
coalition of the willing.
Then exactly. What you do? Okay, what you do before you get to the point where you were quote unquote and you leapt way ahead saying they're going to be conscripting British youth, but they won't. You say to them, "We are going to stand up against you in whatever way you can." I did not say they're going to conscript people. Okay, and you immediately, every time you come on, you leap to nuclear war for some strange reason. Now the Russians.
Every time I come on,
yes.
Except the one time when you cut me off after 7 seconds. That is democracy in our world today.
I'm letting you speak now.
You talked about Romania. Romania had an election, a perfectly ordinary democratic election, and the EU has stepped in and has banned that election.
Because
they cannot have an election under that president. He is under threat of being thrown into jail. So they're having another election.
Yeah.
Tell me what that reminds you of. Does that not remind you of Ireland and having elections and when we're told to have the election again? You don't remember that?
Well,
this European Union that you are advocating support for is something that is based not on democracy but on dictatorship.
The European Union is based on dictatorship, and yet Ireland is a happy member of the European. Hey, what?
I'm an Irish man.
You're more than that, Felix. I can assure you of that.
I distinctly remember that happening. What has happened in Romania? Cast your mind onto that. It happened only 2 weeks ago. That's all I want to say. Bye.
The thing with Viewpoint.
You see, there is a point here which has been demonstrated by your caller just now, and is that he mentioned all these submarines with nuclear warheads and everything that can destroy every city in America and everything else. This is the kind of race that I fear that we might be entering. There is a completely pointless race, if you know what I mean, because that's what people, that's what your caller just said, I mean, we're going to go,
there's no point going nuclear, right?
I know.
I mean, the whole thing,
that's my whole point. There is no point of going.
As for these stealth submarines, I mean, Kursk. I mean, they couldn't get from the border of Belarus to Kyiv in under 48 hours. They were stuck in the room because their supplies line, the logistics ran out. And that's why they've been involved in the war that Russia and the Soviets have always passed since time immemorial, which is the meat grinder war, which is them throwing conscripts against the thing.
Now, do we have, did they have the might to go and take Kiev? And if they didn't take Kiev, was it a strategic move just to take the east of the country?
Why would they do that? When they could knock off the top of the decapitate the
I'm not in the head of Putin, but it's a possibility that it could have been a strategic move, or that. Or is he happy to show the world that he hasn't got the might to go all the way to Kiev?
Yeah.
Or is it a strategic way of, making that you're going that way to take, the east of the country? The country. We don't know.
Right, the lies are going mad, my friend.
Okay, just go for it then.
I've got the absolute pescado of whatever. So let's see how we go with this one. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. Peter.
Morning, Peter.
Good morning. Oh, the happy pills of the half-life is definitely gone, and
the half-life of the happy. But I just making a point, Peter. That's what my situation was with the whole thing. And people saying that I'm advocating. I'm not. I'm just advocating a coalition of the willing as a first step.
The thing is, sorry, you finished?
Please go. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, Giles, you lost a lot of callers a little while ago, and some of them are coming back, and you've been emphasising the last few weeks about people having a viewpoint, and then when they do have a severe viewpoint that is not your viewpoint, you start to show your true colours, as you just did. I mean, Felix is entitled to a viewpoint, whether you agree with it or not, and that's the name of the programme, as you keep emphasising. Yeah. But also, when he said you advocated war, I took it, I wouldn't say you advocated war, but I also think that you're pro-elongation of this war and no end to this war, because what you're advocating is to build a super European army, spend trillions of dollars that we don't have, because as one of the other guests said, that the money doesn't come from nowhere, and it's not taxpayer. Taxpayers pay for debt. They pay to service the debt that countries run up, and this is another debt they will run up, and it will be run up, and BAE and people like that, they have to replace everything that they've been using during this war. That's how the military-industrial complex works. And to use a crude analogy, anyone who's ever had animals, small farm, anything like that, sometimes you have to cull a healthy animal for the good of the herd of the flock. And if it means that Ukraine have to cede some land or give up their NATO thing for peace, because this war is brutal, it's hand-to-hand combat, and also you keep saying about what Putin is capable of and unable to do it, and he has been very, very liked, I believe, on what he could do, and mainly because he is fighting in a place or going into a place where there's many Ukrainians, and he doesn't want to destroy a lot of what he went in there for. So it's a very difficult, dirty, filthy war that is costing lives day and day and day. And as Trump said the other day, he gets privy to see a lot of that stuff, and what we're being told is nothing to what we're seeing. And I watch other news outlets like WION, India, Hindustan Time, and you get a truer picture. Now, as you keep mentioning Kursk, if you recall what Zelensky did, and you as a war historian or whatever, you understand these tactics, what he did to go into Kursk was
I talk about the submarine Kursk, not the actual thing.
Right, sorry.
Because he was going about submarines and I just went Kursk because obviously they can. Yeah,
I thought you meant the Kursk
not
region.
The battle itself. Sorry, my mistake there, my friend.
But going back to that battle, Ukraine went in there to deflect from the front line they were fighting with the Russians.
Yeah.
And when they went in there was not a single Russian soldier there. They stormed several thousand square kilometers of land. They took multiple towns and villages, not a single uniform there. Now, many people would call that a war crime. They're non-combatants they took. So what Russia did, being Putin and being a bit smarter than the rest of them, didn't bother to go to Kursk. He finished the job where he was, then went to Kursk, and now just kicked him out. So he's winning that battle, and the only way we can stop it, is stop the killing, is, and you say, basically you're saying build up the army, peace through strength and all that. What do you think Trump's offering?
Well,
If he if he says no NATO and then puts in American companies drilling for minerals and working in there, as he said, and most sensible people would agree, why on earth would Russia go in there again, knowing full well that they're attacking American employees, American people, American land, American, whatever you want to call it? So it's going to end if he's allowed to do it. And Putin, I'm pretty sure, will want to take something back to his people. Yeah. But Ukraine is going to have to cede. And I don't understand why people with real no skin in the game keep saying that, and you just said it, that the next is Moldova, the next is this, the next is that. That's never been his plan. He's even said he doesn't want to do it and it would be too difficult. But also, it doesn't help when you introduce the president of Italy and people like that as the far right. Can you define far right so I can understand why people keep calling anyone who disagrees with Europe far right?
Andres, you want to come in on the far right with that one?
No, right, because I disagree with a lot of things he says, but I agree with this one.
Well, exactly.
No, I don't know why they call it.
This is why it's called Viewpoint, because it's a populist movement. She's modeled herself on Mussolini.
No, I mean, everyone was saying Meloni was the new Mussolini who's arriving in Italy, and that hasn't happened. And obviously, it's been kind of a success in the way she has handled the country and the European Union. Yeah. And there's no sign of any far right or any black shirts in the street.
Does she wear a white hood?
No, she doesn't.
Ride a white horse?
I don't know. I know what she does in a private life, but I've got Jason wanting to come in, though, Peter. So if I may, but thank you for your call in. Thank you. 952-78-4000. Morning, Jason. You're live on TRE. What can you do for this? What's your viewpoint this morning?
Hey, Giles. You might lose me with batteries low. Yes, indeed. Everybody does seem to want to prolong this war. So have I got this right? We want to set up a rival to NATO, a European peace force or aggressive force. Europe's becoming more aggressive, it's becoming more expansionist, and it kind of fits in with the far right that we're drifting towards. Would we not be better making peace, right, than going to be more aggressive with the world? The world needs peace, and with Donald Trump on this one, Europe seems to want to just prolong this war. Maybe it's good because it's expansionist for NATO, I don't know, right? But too many soldiers have died on both sides. Right, it's become a war of attrition. Yeah. It's got to stop. The killing has to stop. Right, it's as simple as that. Right, there seems to be more impetus for war in this world than there does for peace.
Yeah, but
Putin has got himself in his own Vietnam, Afghanistan. Given the choice, given a graceful way out, a dignified way out, right? Because he's got to hold on to power in his country. Right, he probably would take it, but vilifying Russia and Russian people are affected. We're not at war with Russian people. What have they done wrong? This is absolutely insane. I tell you, Europe is becoming more and more aggressive. It's like putting teeth on the damn thing.
Okay.
Well, and it's really easy to be brave and gun-ho when you're sat in a radio studio or me calling in when you're not on a battlefield, like the bloody politicians that go home for summer recess. Soldiers are dying on the droves on both sides. People have become desensitized to this. It's easy to advocate war when you're not on a battlefield sharing the risks. And the thing is, this is nonsense. We need to start exploring our humanity in this world and stop this nonsense road that we're going down, which perpetuates more sufferance, more killing. It's nonsense. It's absolutely insane.
Jason, thank you.
Anybody that says yes, but wants to spend a day on the battlefield, right? They probably need a nappy changing, right? And then tell me if they got the same viewpoint.
Thank you for your calling, Jason. As always, good to have you. Go take a break, and then more viewpoints.
TRE
Talk Radio Europe. Viewpoint
with Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Giles Brown here, joined by Andres Gallardo and the nicest man in radio, Ron Yates, just talking about invading through Ontario. Ron, that'd be an interesting... Yeah, I guess.
10% of the population of Canada is in that small area around the Great Lakes.
Yeah. It's an artificially drawn border, you know that.
Well,
you'd be much better as a faithful to the state.
Depends on who you ask.
Well, exactly. I mean, at least somebody could shovel the snow for you. To the WhatsApps we go. Here we go. Where have they got money? Where have they got the money to build this? This is Ukraine. This is in Ukraine Travel News. I don't. A major new mountain resort is under construction in the Carpathian Mountains, marking a significant development for Ukraine's tourism industry. Well, that would be interesting. Well, I don't know where they've got money, Cookie, but thank you for sending that in. Meanwhile, look at some other bits of pieces coming in. So, oh my goodness, the Russians are doing a great job with its propaganda campaign. Felix is under the spell of the Kremlin. Jason, who was just on spot on from Simon in Marbella, and trillions on dollars aren't spent on NATO. I'm just trying to get back to you've said something earlier on in this thread and I can't find it. So 4 in a row, but thank you very much for those. 952-7844. These are the numbers, by the way. If you wish to get involved with me having apparently my little warmonger bit on a Tuesday morning, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952-78-4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
I tell you what, let's get back to the polar poles, shall we? Before I
love that.
Blimey. By the way, in case you hadn't gathered, last week marked the 3rd anniversary of my friend Pierre, who was killed in Ukraine. So that was maybe there's a subterranean, maybe there's an underlying thing there. Right then, here we go. Pierre Subchowski. Here we go, and the poll of polls. Live and lively on Viewpoint, and the thoughts. What we're asking today is with the recent reports. I know it's just a poll. I just like to call it the poll of polls, listeners. Come on, I know that, but it sounds good. Come on. So what we're asking for. What we're asking for today is, with the recent report from PwC, the 1 in 4 generations Gen Z are considering quitting work to live on benefits in the UK. Is this the most entitled generation ever? At the moment, it lies at, yes, 85%, no, 1%, and whatever, 14%. So you've still got 9 minutes or so to get your ideas in. My students from the Netherlands the last year have been so entitled, worthless. The change in attitude is becoming shocking. Blaming lockdown. Right, thanks for that. I can't possibly read what you've just sent in, and it sounds, but apparently the poll of polls sounds absolutely awful. So I shall continue to use it because it's my ball, and I'm going to play with it. Yabu sucks. Andres.
I was going to go back to the point I was making with the previous caller. I can't remember his name. With the far right,
fascist and the far right.
The far right.
Fascist.
I think what we're doing with the far right, or to start with, to call it far right. So you can call them. Well, whatever you want to call them, doesn't matter.
Call them out.
So we are we don't realise that. Let's put the example of Spain. Spain is 1 in 5 voters vote for Vox, which is what you would call out there the far right party. 1 in 5 is a lot, and they've got a representation of 50 odd members of parliament. So it's a very large chunk of the population of Spain who agrees with all that, They're not better or worse than anyone else. They have their ideas and they stand by them and they like that sort of thing, okay? You can agree or disagree, yeah? You cannot do is what the president of our gracious government did last week, is that he called all the groups in parliament for talks about the military spending of the country, except Vox, and they made it really public and really, they shouted about it. We're inviting everybody except Vox, which is completely wrong. Firstly, because they represent a large portion of the population in Spain, That's the main thing. And secondly, the Prime Minister represents all of the Spanish people, not only the people who vote for him. That's another thing that a lot of the leaders around the world should realize, including Trump. They represent all the Americans. The Prime Minister in Spain represents all the Spanish people. And of course, it should talk to that group, especially when it comes to big spending on military issues. But to exclude them is just making more propaganda for them and finding more people who are going to support them as a backlash to...
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because, isn't it? Because would you rather have them inside the tent piddling in or outside the tent piddling in, sort of thing, isn't it? That whole situation. Because if you invite Vox to a conversation about military spending, they'll say, okay, but we want to have Spanish Morocco back. I mean, that's because after, yeah.
Whatever it is, you have to have them in because they represent a large portion of the population.
Now, here comes one that, strangely enough, we were just talking about off air, because this is saying that 12% voted for Vox. Hang on, Andres. Blame the system and blame the ones who chose not to vote. Yeah, only 66.6% of the electorate turned up. As I say, always vote and always vote for the least worst. Ron, you were just saying about voting. We can decry whatever we want about this whole situation, but the fact is that people didn't vote.
The reason that Trump is the president today is because 59 million people in the United States didn't vote. And then they'll sit back and complain. You know, if you didn't vote in an election and you don't like what's happening, don't say anything. Shut up.
I think we're going to vote for Ron. Going to take a quick short break, and then, because I've just forgot we've got a break to go, and then we're going to have literally the last 3 minutes of Viewpoint. So buckle up.
Talk Radio Europe. Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
And just a quick mention, because St. James Global Private Clients are pleased to announce their expansion into Spain. Specialists in protecting and preserving global wealth with 40 years experience helping clients enjoy their retirement and lifestyle. Contact St. James Private Clients at info@stjamesglobal.com. Into the last 2 minutes of this morning's Viewpoint. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? If you want to get your Viewpoint in quickly.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
So even though more than 155 million Americans voted in 2024, in relative terms, voter turnout was nationally in 2024 was 63.9%. This is below the 66.6% voter turnout recorded in 2020, which was the highest voter turnout rate in the US presidential election since 1900. Right, well, let's go to the thing that I call the poll of polls, because I'm sad like that. We shall see. So finally, on the report from the PwC, Ron's trying to get out the window already.
I'm fixing my pants.
You're fixing your trousers, dear boy. The generations that naked viewpoints. There's a thought. Right. Where was I? Oh, yes. Okay. So the poll says, recent report that Generation Z are considering quitting work to live on benefits. 1 in 4. Is this the most entitled generation yet? And the final was, yes, 85%, no, 1%, whatever, on 14%. So there you go. Almost out of time. It is my pleasure and my privilege to do the show. Andreas.
Just a very quick one.
Go on.
Because I've heard a comment from one of the callers that if you don't agree with the Viewpoint, you cut them off and everything else. I have to say there should be more programs like this one.
Cutting you off?
No, there should be more programs like this, because it is nice to hear different views. We don't agree. I don't agree with everyone that rings in or everyone that shares the panel with me. And I'm sure out there people don't agree with what I think, but it is nice to be able to express your viewpoint freely, whether you like it or not, is part of a good, healthy discussion that makes us better.
Right, thank you for that one. Ron, yes. Any final thoughts, Ron, apart from putting your trousers back on?
No, I think I've voiced my opinions on a couple of occasions here this morning, and I just...
Right then, okay, that's...
I'm okay with this.
Okay, fine. Just to let you know, obviously, I'm going to get a restock on Happy Pills and give you all out there a virtual group hug. Thanks for phoning in, because we may disagree or disagree, but you what makes Viewpoint so special. This show will be repeated at 7 o'clock, and warm and cuddly Stephen Ritson is up next. So here we go again. Thanks very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.